This is a Mamiya RB67 Pro S. It was released in 1974 and was considered as one of the best portraits camera of its time. And I bought one years later in 2023. And as a fairly new film photographer, the experience I had with it was interesting. Let me explain. Owning this camera has had its ups and downs so far, and I wanted to dedicate this video to those who are looking to buy one and not make the mistakes that I've made in the beginning. As a freelance video and photographer, I'm used to shoot on digital cameras, as probably many of you also are doing. You can take so many things for granted, like scrolling a simple wheel already reveals what the picture is going to look like on your screen. And also you can shoot as many pictures as your SD card can hold. For instance, every picture you take on this camera feels like a loss of money, and therefore you have to put in a lot of preparation before you take your shot. In my opinion, it certainly helps you to further your career as a photographer. I'm learning more about lighting, I have a more critical eye for composition, and I have to communicate more with your subject, if you're shooting a portrait, for example. In the RB67 line, there are 3 models released. Mamiya gave birth to the original RB67 in 1970. Next was the RB67 Pro S in 1974, and then in 1990 they released another RB67 Pro SD. RB stands for rotating back, which means you can rotate the back to make your picture look horizontal or vertical. 67 stands for 6x7, which means a medium format size, but there are different options out there. For example, my camera's film back has a 6x4.5 centimeters, which means I have 16 exposures on a 120mm roll of film. Then if you compare this to a standard 6x7, you have only 10 exposures, but this means you have larger pictures. The most interesting thing, apart from the fact that this camera shoots amazing images, is a viewing screen, which you probably all have seen before. But what I like to do better is opening up this magnifying screen where I can see more precisely if I'm nailing the focus. The focusing is not done on the lens, but on the camera body, using this bellow focusing method. You can see the bellow protruding as you go in and out. Before you take a shot, there are a few things that need to be done. First, you cock the shutter, then you take out this thing, which is called the dark slide, and then you rewind the film. Then you press the shutter. The shutter is on the bottom right of the camera, by the way. The dark slide is quite annoying, but luckily the Mamiya doesn't fire if you have the dark slide inside. You can place the dark slide on the left side of the camera or just put it in your pocket. What I think is incredibly annoying is that when you try to frame a shot and you point it to the right, for example, it goes to the left on the monitoring field, which makes framing the shot quite challenging. This proves once more that you have to take your sweet time before taking your shot. What's recommended is using a good sturdy tripod, especially if you don't have a lot of light. I like to shoot with an aperture of a minimum of 8 because focusing this thing is super hard to do. Here are some of the shots I took. My first roll was quite successful and had a blast shooting all of these pictures. What really nice is that when you take this bad boy out in front of other people, tell a little bit about how special the camera is, you can think about making a picture together and take your time to make a nice photograph. And it makes me feel a little bit nostalgic because it was rare to have your picture taken because the digital photographic era wasn't there in the 90s. Now for the second roll, that was a complete failure. I didn't know what I was doing and I was pushing some random buttons on the camera. I hit the mirror up button. When you do this, you have to use a shutter release. Since I don't have a shutter release yet, I'm not 100% sure how it works, so I'm not going further into detail. The third roll had only one picture in it that worked. This is because I replaced the light seals of this camera, and after doing this, the rewind button didn't really function as well. So I thought I did something wrong. I had to open up the film back and closing it back down, and this resulted in only the last picture being properly exposed. If you have the same problem, being that the rewind button doesn't work, just flick this metal piece one time and you can rewind again. When it comes to build quality, this thing is an absolute beast. It's built extremely well and stood the test of time. It's entirely modular, and this means you can take everything apart. And if you're a fan of truly analog experience, then this is the camera to get. Everything is done manually and mechanically. If you still want to buy one of these after all of this information rant, there are a few things you have to take in consideration. You can either spend double or maybe triple the amount and get a perfect functioning camera. You can find all of these cameras in your local retro camera shops. These cameras are very well looked after, the seals are replaced and they just work. Or you can take the risk and buy one second hand, like I did for example. I paid for my Mamiya around $400 and I found this one on an auction site. It was by a woman from Italy, I believe, and it was sent very well. It was packed very well. All I got was this neck strap, a extender, and this thing I'm not 100% sure what it does, and the 645 film bag. And then the next thing I needed was a lens, of course, and after a bit of hesitation I bought one off eBay, and it was one of these Japanese stores. After doing some research I read that a lot of people had good experiences with Japanese shops. I paid $123 for this lens, included shipping and tax. Then I paid another $23 to clear the customs. So for this whole kit I paid $593, which I think is still an absolute steal considering the prices you see on official websites like RetroCam and all of the other websites that are available. There are still a few things that need to be fixed with this camera. For example, the film bag that I have right now still has some light leaks. I ordered a standard 6x7 film bag from Japan, so I'm looking forward to that. And for the rest, if you want to check your camera for light leaks, it's very simple to do. Just go in a dark room and flash with a flashlight into your camera, and then you can see if you have spillage of light. So as a conclusion, I can say that I'm still learning, but I'm absolutely in love with this camera. It's very challenging, but it's giving me a better eye because I'm thinking about what I'm going to photograph, and overall it makes me want to hunt for interesting objects or subjects to shoot. I'm super excited for all of the projects that I'm going to shoot with this camera. Of course, I'm going to make YouTube videos around them, so stick around. And in the meantime, maybe you can watch another video that I've made. If not, then goodbye and thank you so much for watching.